In this presentation, you will learn about folk culture. Traditionally, the tum-tum or dhol has been used to convey information where one would play or hit the instrument and say that the king has passed on these messages. In India, even in our mythological stories, we had gods or characters who used to pass on information from one kingdom to another. Even in the grand temples, which have huge complexes, they are generally storehouses of information. The walls of temples have inscriptions written in different local languages. These inscriptions have details about how much land was given to whom, ration details, stories, myths of that land. There have been instances in the traditional Indian society where kings awarded artists with pieces of land who composed beautiful songs and poetries. These scholars used to travel from distant places to share their artwork. We have also used palm leaves to record information. Earlier, pigeons were used to carry information about war plans or to convey information about enemy countries approaching near the borders to another kingdom to seek support. Pigeons were also used to carry notes of marriage proposals or love letters. Notes written on palm leaves have been used on pigeons' feet too to pass on messages. In Venice, there used to be a wall where the news was written in the olden times. To read that news, one had to pay a few coins. This was before the invention of the printing press. In other words, the exchange of information is not something new, but old and ancient. Meaning of folk. Folk culture is generally associated with the being original, authentic, pure, and more connected to the roots of the community. Alan Dundes is seen as the father of folklore. He is one of the prominent scholars in the field who has contributed to a large extent to the growth of the discipline. One of his important books is titled The Meaning of Folklore. According to him, folk is often associated with peasant or rural people. It is also connected with the past. Yet he points out that even urban people have folklore. It does not fade away or die out. However, folk is always created or recreated depending upon the situation. He also adds that folk can be seen as any group of people who share at least one common factor. It does not matter what the linking factor is. It could be a common occupation, language, or religion, but what is important is that a group that has become or has some traditions and calls those its own. He also points out that there are different types of folklore. For example, folk tales, legends, myths, ballads, festivals, folk dance and song, rhymes, food recipes, traditional names, sounds, etc. Meaning of culture. According to British anthropologist Edward Tyler, culture can be called as the complex whole which includes knowledge, belief, art, law, morals, custom, and any other capabilities acquired by man as a member of society. The uniqueness of culture is that it evolves, is human specific, and is learned from one generation and passed on to another generation. In other words, it is cumulative, it keeps evolving with time. Folk culture. The term folk itself is a debatable term. What can be called folk today may not be folk tomorrow. If societies have completely been modernized through the use of technology, infrastructure, can we say then that they do not have something called as folk culture at all with them? Or none of their practices deserve to be called a folk? The roots of the emergence of folk culture are invoking the gods, remembrance, ancestor worship, labor who work in the fields, mothers singing a lullaby for their children. Later on, these forms are used to further communicate to a wider audience. Traditional folk media forms are basically people's performances that are performed live. The strength of these forms of media is that it is rooted in the social and cultural fabric of the villages. It can be used for multiple forms like awareness to convey development messages. Folk media has played an important role even in the freedom struggle. The beauty of a country like India is that every state has its own folk art forms, like Maharashtra has Lavani, Powda. In Kashmir, we have Rof, which is performed at the onset of the spring season. In states like Tamil Nadu, there is Villupattu, which is the bow song, which is used to sing praises of folk heroes and has been used by NGOs to spread awareness. There are folk art forms everywhere in India. For example, Yakshagan, Nautanki, Katha Kirtan, puppet shows. In a diverse country like India, the folk art forms are rooted, woven in our lives, and carried from one generation to another. Thank you for watching the presentation. Do like, share, subscribe, and leave your comments about this presentation or any other topic you would like to learn more about.